Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, after 3 years together, OP discovers his girlfriend's cheating through a condom wrapper in her car. Investigating her phone, he finds explicit messages with his best friend, leading to his girlfriend's exposure on social media. Despite her protests, he ends their relationship, causing a chain reaction resulting in her losing her influencer career. He remains indifferent to her fate, feeling vindicated for her cheating. Now let's get into the story. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. We met in our biology class during college, and we enjoyed our lab time together. I asked her out on a study date before anything else, and she agreed to go with me. We ended up talking about everything but biology, and we both failed the test that we were attempting to study for. We had a really strong connection, and I saw a future with her regardless of us being very young at the time. I never really had the desire to mess around with a lot of women. I thought that I found one, and I was content with being with her. We graduated college, and we moved in together right away. We both had a hard time landing good jobs after graduating, but after a little while, we were starting to settle into everything. My girlfriend studied marketing and communications in college, and part of her thesis project was to study how people became influencers. Her project was to become one herself. She was able to gain a significant following and brand deals that she still has to this day. Because of that, she was able to work on growing her following and eventually start working for herself. It wasn't a conventional job by any means, but I was supportive of her, and she was doing something she enjoyed, so I was happy. At first, most of her followers seemed to be women who were interested in fashion and makeup tips, but after a while, her follower demographic turned to a lot of men. She's a very beautiful woman, and I totally understand why the men were following her. Unfortunately, because her audience had transitioned to mostly men, her content catered to them more. She was posting pictures and more revealing clothes and became one of the most popular women in the world, and a lot of the captions became more suggestive. I was a little insecure about what she was posting. I didn't like to know that a bunch of other men had seen my girlfriend in that way. There's nothing wrong with women posting things like that online, but I'm a very private person, so it was hard for me to get past that. I knew that she got dozens of DMs a day for men wanting to sleep with her. Sometimes she would even show them to me, and we would laugh about them together. As unhappy as I was with other men seeing her the way they did, I was confident that she wouldn't act on anything. I didn't think that she would anyway. My girlfriend is sort of an old-fashioned type of romantic. She likes a partner who will do little, chivalrous things for her. There are some things that she just doesn't think that she should be the one to do, and one of those is clean her car. I don't really mind doing it. Acts of service are a great way for me to show that I care, so it's a small price to pay to make her happy. So, one day I was cleaning out her car, and I found something that raised a lot of red flags for me. Underneath the passenger side seat was a condom wrapper. Right away, I knew that it wasn't mine. My girlfriend and I don't have intimate in the car, and on top of that, we've been together long enough that we've had talks about protection, and we weren't using condoms. So someone else had been in my girlfriend's car that needed a condom. My girlfriend had to have cheated on me. There was no question in my mind at the time. Right away, I tried looking for any evidence that I could through social media, but I couldn't find much. I needed to figure out who it was before I confronted her, and she tried to lie about it. When I went inside, she was on the couch sleeping while a television show played in the background. It was excellent timing, so I grabbed her phone and started looking through it. I searched through her messages for keywords that people having an affair might type in. Eventually, my best friend's phone number came up. They have been talking about sleeping together for a while. It started when my girlfriend posted a picture of herself at the beach on her Instagram. He reached out to her and told her that he hadn't been able to stop thinking about the picture. My girlfriend told him that she was flattered to hear him say that. She had thought about him for a while. Their messages were extremely sexual, and my girlfriend even initiated sending nudes to him. She was obviously very excited to see those, and he told her that he needed to see her ASAP. Without hesitation, my girlfriend told him that she wanted to as well. They made plans right away to get together and hook up. He had a girlfriend that he lived with, so I had no doubts that the condom wrapper was in the car because they hooked up there to avoid being caught. After they had intimate, they texted each other talking about how much fun they had. From there, they seemed to have met up countless other times. Both of them mentioned how they enjoyed sneaking around with each other. They were both turned on by the possibility of getting into a relationship or being caught by us. I was furious, and right away I knew that I was going to be leaving my girlfriend. If she liked my friend so much, she could go and be with him for all I cared. I couldn't stand to look at her any longer. I sent myself as much evidence as I could, then I set my girlfriend's phone back down. If they were going to completely betray my trust and disregard the care that I have for them, then I was going to get my payback on them. I knew that my girlfriend kept her social media profiles logged in on her laptop, so while she was still asleep, I went over to them. I changed the password on her Instagram account so she couldn't log in easily. I took the screenshots that I had of her messages with my best friend, and I posted them on her wall and story. I even wrote a caption about how she cheated. I made sure to tag my former best friend in the post as well. The comments quickly rolled in, and I started to feel kind of bad. Then I remembered that she completely disrespected me, and I didn't care anymore. Her follower count was dropping. I could almost watch it happen. The post was being shared countless times, and I felt like I had won a small victory. My girlfriend woke up about half an hour later, completely oblivious to what was happening in her life. When she realized, she screamed and found me sitting at her computer. She was angry with me, but I just told her that I wanted her to leave the apartment. My best friend was trying to call me and explain what happened, but I blocked his number and ignored him. His girlfriend reached out to me, however. She had a lot of questions, and I did what I could to answer them. She ended up breaking up with him too. I kicked my girlfriend out of the apartment and let her deal with the aftermath of everything I had just done. I kept an eye on things for a while, and at first I thought that she blocked me on social media because I couldn't find her account. However, I learned that she actually deleted it. It was her main source of income, and she had to completely get rid of it. A lot of the brands that she worked with pulled their sponsorships because what she did didn't align with their values. Having their brand attached to her name was a liability after the fact. I don't know what she's doing now, and I don't care. All I know is that she had her entire life ruined because she screwed me over. Today's second story. In this story, OP's 5-year relationship with Bella, starting from their meeting at a salon, culminated in wedding plans. However, a shocking revelation by his best man revealed Bella's infidelity and deceit, including carrying his child. Enraged, Jason canceled the wedding and cut ties with both of them. Bella later aborted the baby as revenge. Despite the pain, he is moving forward, vowing not to love deeply again. Now let's get into the story. My name is Jason, and I was in a relationship with my ex-girlfriend, Bella, for 5 years. Bella and I met each other at a unisex salon. To be precise, she worked at the unisex salon as a hairdresser, and the first day I met her was the first day she resumed work at that salon. She was friendly, and we got along well. I know I liked her from the onset, but I didn't think we'd become so close and fall in love. After visiting the hair salon several times, I asked for her number, and by this time, we were familiar with each other, so she couldn't say no. You know how the story goes. We went out together, got to know each other, and love happened. And when love happened, we ended up dating for 5 years. Personally, the main reason we didn't settle early was because I had been deeply hurt in love as slowly as possible with Bella. After 5 years, I decided it was time to tie the knot officially, and shortly after I asked her to marry me, we started the wedding preparations. 2 months before our wedding, Bella broke the news that she was pregnant. And although that wasn't part of our plans, I was happy, and I believed it was the universe's way of blessing us with an early wedding gift. Originally, Bella and I planned that we wouldn't have a child until 3 to 4 years after we were married. So, by then we would be all settled. In the past, she had an abortion twice, and I didn't want that for her again. So we decided we would keep the baby. Sincerely, It wasn't easy planning for a wedding and a child at once. It was even worse because Bella insisted we have the kind of wedding she had always dreamed of. She wanted us to use a venue, rent an expensive gown, and do a couple of other things that required a lot of money. It wasn't like I was the only one financing the wedding. She had been saving some money for it too, but I believed it was better to use most of our budget to lease a bigger apartment since we were expecting a child, and also take care of other necessary things, but she refused. She claimed our marriage was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and we had plenty more years to take care of our child and consider him before making any decision. So, after I thought about it, I saw her point, and we went ahead with the kind of wedding she wanted. We booked a venue and paid for the type of cake she wanted. After tasting a few, she paid for her gown, hairdo, and other things she had to take care of with her bridesmaids. Deep down, I was so excited I was getting married to the woman I loved, and I was even happier that she had not cheated on me once in our 5 years of dating. I believed she was a faithful partner who would remain faithful until we grew old, but I was wrong. So wrong. I went far too deep into the future when my present was already a mess. I didn't know that while the wedding plans were going smoothly, and I was pumping my savings into making her dream wedding a reality, Bella was cheating on me with someone close to me, and I would never have found out if her jealous lover had not come out clean. A night before our wedding, I went home early that evening to drop a few things so I could join my friends for my bachelor's party, which was about to begin in 2 hours. And just as I reached the house, my best man called and asked if we could meet somewhere that he had something important to tell me. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the bar we were hanging out that night. On getting there, I noticed he looked unsettled, and soon as I sat down, he apologized in advance and told me he needed to get something off his chest. I was even a bit scared that he was about to cancel on me the night before my wedding, but what he told me was far worse than canceling on me. Straight to the face, my best man told me a little history of him and Bella and claimed he loved her so much and could not watch us get married. When he started saying everything, I thought he and my other friends were pranking me, and I kept looking around for someone recording us or any of my other friends, but immediately he showed me a sensual picture of him and my Bella together. My heart sank. He even showed me a text Bella had sent him before he called me, and it said something about him sneaking into her hotel room later at night so he could make her feel good for our wedding. Seeing that message cleared all my doubts, and I tried to hold in the hurt as a man, but I couldn't keep in the tears. That wasn't all. He told me he was responsible for the baby Bella was carrying, but they planned together for her to tell me it was mine, so I wouldn't think anything was off and break up with her. He also disclosed other things that made sense, and at that moment, I felt my world stand still. There were thousands of thoughts going through my head, and it was difficult for me to accept that the woman I loved and had very high expectations in our relationship was carrying my best man's child while I was doing all the necessary preparations thinking the child was mine. I was so mad that if it were possible to see my head lit on fire, my best man would have seen the smoke. When I had heard enough, I got up in anger, flung the chair I was sitting on, and walked out. I was trying to control my anger, but when he followed me and held my arm, I punched him in the nose by reflex and then drove off. As soon as I got into my car, I called the wedding venue to cancel the venue and other things I had made part payment for. I even managed to get home in that state without passing a limit, and immediately I got home, I cried like I had never cried before. While I was crying over Bella's wicked betrayal, she called to ask if I had canceled the wedding venue because she got a call from them, and I told her I did. From my voice, it was obvious I had been crying. So when she asked if everything was fine, I didn't beat around the bush. I told her I knew everything, and our wedding was officially called off. It took her a couple of minutes to understand what I meant, and when she knew that I knew, she started crying and begging me over the phone. Throughout that night, she kept calling even when I told her I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Also, I didn't sleep at home because I knew she would come over to try and beg me, to show how terrible she was. She even texted that we should get married and we would sort out everything after the wedding. She said this because she could not stand the shame of having her wedding called off the night before, especially after bragging to her friends. Our wedding was never held, and to date, I cannot forgive her for what she did to me. Everything I did for her in 5 years of my life went down the tube just like that. I wish cases like heartbreaks and infidelity had a place in court because I would have dragged her there, and I'd ensure she paid for all the years I wasted on her. The pain she caused me and everything I invested in her. Since then, we haven't seen each other, and she didn't have the courage to face me after I called off the wedding. I moved into the house I rented for us as a surprise, and daily, I'm healing and moving forward. To my surprise, after everything turned out like that, my best man, who was my former close friend, tried to reach out to me to apologize for hurting me and breaking my trust. He even tried to tell a story of how their affair started, but I wasn't interested in hearing his story. I told him we could no longer be friends, and he had no place in my life. Since then, we haven't made contact, and I'll never speak to him again. Call it childish, but I don't care. Anyway, Bella did not keep his child. She aborted the baby as payback to him for ruining her life, and they are not together anymore. I have learned my lesson and will never love deeply again. Most times I wished I had channeled all the resources, investments, and sacrifices I made for our relationship into my life. It would have been way better than wasting time on a promiscuous woman. But like they say, when there is life, there is hope. Today's third story. In this story, OP's wife had a wild past, but she promised to change. However, she secretly resumed her reckless behavior, including cheating for money. Discovering this, he exposed her infidelity, leading to her social isolation and eventual departure. Despite her attempts to elicit sympathy, he chose not to respond, ending their relationship with no remorse, culminating in a final courtroom confrontation. Now let's get into the story. Right before my wife and I got married, she had a crazy bachelor party that might have involved things I didn't want to know about. I knew she had wild friends and that until she met me, she partied with them and had a couple run-ins with the police. As we dated and got to know each other, she told me that getting older was something she took seriously. She didn't want to continue her life on the path she was on. Instead, she wanted to settle down with a responsible man that made her feel loved and happy. I knew I could be that man for her, and I was ready to settle down too. I went out with my friends and had some good times, but it was never as reckless as my wife. I didn't see how I'm drinking excessively, sleeping around, wasting money, or petty crime was going to lead me to a bright future. She looked at the credit card debt she racked up, saw the stark contrast to the lives we lived, and decided to change her ways. I saw her mature and make wiser choices as we spent time together, which made me believe this was the real deal. She was gorgeous, charming, genuine, and growing wiser thanks to me. I was under the impression that I'd met my soulmate and didn't need to be afraid to commit. My wife was ready to take vows with me and start our life together. So we got married in the summer of 2019. 3.5 years later, I was watching a show on my phone while she was in the bathroom. It was a normal Saturday for us. My wife was about to have a girls' night out with her friends, which was happening about 4 to 6 times a month. It was more than when we first got married. At first, she didn't allow these girls back into her life, but that's eventually what happened. They started guilt-tripping her, telling her she was going to be an old maid in her 30s. Even though she eventually gave in and started going out with them again, we had a deep bond that made me think she was a loyal, mature, respectable woman. I was completely wrong. We've been talking about her debt, but she had trouble keeping a job, pretty materialistic, and found it much harder to earn money than to spend it. Since I was the only one with a steady job, I paid the bills and only allowed her a bit of money to pay her debt, get groceries, and go out with her friends. My phone died, so I plugged it in and grabbed my wife's phone to continue watching the show. As soon as I opened it, message notifications started pouring in from men on Craigslist. I read some of them and discovered they were replying to her recent post about her needing help to pay off her credit card debt. I continued reading through messages and realized she'd been seeing someone else regularly. He told her the last night they spent together was mind-blowing, and he needed to see her again tonight. I threw the phone across the room and just laid there, processing and thinking through what I just read. I felt like I became a void that might try anything to fill the emptiness. Before my wife came out of the bathroom, I realized I needed to save screenshots of those messages to prove she was at least talking to other men like this. Since I had much better credit, I'd bought our marital house completely on my own. Now that this was happening, I feared the worst possible scenario, which included her taking my home from me. After I took 2 screenshots, sent them to myself, and put her phone back where it was, she entered the room and asked if I was okay. I could tell she was nervous that might have seen her phone. I said I was fine. I had to catch her meeting another man to get evidence and help my brain accept that this was real. If it was so much worse than her spending time drinking with her irresponsible friends. I arranged for my friend to pick me up and follow her that night. First, we followed her to a Starbucks, where she met an anxious-looking man that clearly didn't want anyone to know what they were up to. They got into his car without ordering anything, and we followed them into a large neighborhood. To avoid being seen, we circled around until we saw them enter a house. The curtains weren't fully shut, so from across the street, we saw them enter the living room, start making out, and drop onto the couch. I got a little closer to take pictures as my heart pounded and my hands shook. Then I walked back to the car and my friend drove me home. During the ride, we discussed the disturbing reality of what was happening to me. My wife was cheating on me with multiple men for money. He started spreading rumors through his phone to her friends and through them. It spread until it reached my wife's closest and dearest connections. They all bombarded her with degrading insults and slander, telling her she was cut off and they wouldn't support her terrible and degrading behavior. Even members of her family, like her twin cousins, expressed their disbelief and disappointment. She didn't even try to come home that night or ever again. The embarrassment killed her. She messaged me at 2 a.m. with a heartfelt goodbye in an attempt to get a response out of me or make me feel remorse, but it didn't work. I didn't reply at all because she ultimately betrayed me. I never spoke to her again, not even in court. The last memory I have of her is when she broke down crying after receiving a lecture from the judge about honor and loyalty.